most challenging in this film was the idea of making, because of so much coded history, and really what I wanted so much to deviate from is the epic nature. I mean, I find epic films, there's always a trap for the epic and the historic. There's always a certain assumption in the epic and the historic to be presenting moments of history as if they were true and almost linear. Every time we see a character, we think this is a form of redocumentation of something that took place. And I find that quite, it takes hold of a linear way of talking of history. And I think I don't want to judge it as false, but I can tell you I take no pleasure in hearing about this happened, you know. So you can see that in the film. It's true that the most coded moment, let's say the big bang of this film, was the 1948. But this is really just the initiation. After that, I tried to avoid, for instance, the 67 and the 73 and all the, the idea is not to actually have an assumption that it's only these dates to actually, you know, present a historic moment. In fact, what I think is that in the margin of the everyday is where history has a lot more weight on us as individuals rather than just the coded history. And I tried so hard to deviate from, and it was not an easy task because especially, you know, I think the problem is that there's so much bombardment of the media of how we should relate to historic moments of our lives, that when you make a film and when you want to make, when you want to create an image with a certain amount of pleasure to be had from it, then it becomes something deja vu, you know, if you start to put coded history. So this was, I think, the most challenging part for me in creating the script. And every time I was actually coming close to something that could be referential to something known, I was actually trying to deviate from it and create something on the margin, because really what I wanted to talk about are the everyday moment, the emotion, basically. The family trying to have a tender and secure moment, a kind of intimacy of the inside of a home vis-a-vis that which comes to break it. And this is basically what I wanted to tell. I had no intention to actually instigate the idea that I was talking about, even the 48, and I was saying this quite a few times. In fact, what I told about Nazareth in the 48 is really nothing compared in terms of events to what really happened in Palestine at this moment, and particularly the fact that Nazareth was well, I would say, in an exaggerated fashion, an eventless town in the 48. It's a place that surrendered very quickly. It's a place that the Haganah had no interest, well, it had an interest in expelling its inhabitants, but Ben Gurion did not like the idea at all because he was afraid to bring the attention of the Vatican, because, you know, Nazareth is, in terms of religious connotations, it had churches and all that. So the commander, actually, that we saw in the film, the one that gave the speech, the monologue to the mayor, he actually, in real life, historically, he sent a telegram to Ben Gurion telling him it will take me no time to evacuate Nazareth, just like they did in so many other places. And Ben Gurion sent back a telegram saying, do not touch Nazareth, and, you know, just make a circle and continue up north. But I chose that also I wanted to talk about the very intimate and the very personal, about the neighborhood that I knew and about my father that told me so many stories. So I really was much more betting on creating a moment of intimacy, even in the 48, and also even then breaking the narrative, which was crucial for me, not to make a very heavy-handed situation. In a way, the fact that Nazareth had nothing going in it except for the few people that were shot, such as the woman and a couple of other people, somehow synchronized with my absolute desire not to weigh heavily on the dramatic. And I was thinking all the time, if I, and maybe I am, not giving justice cinematically to the drama of Palestine, then if the film is something of a pleasure as images and as sounds, that it can be intriguing for someone to go and look their own history of this place, and not necessarily that I or my film becomes a history lesson. And so it was crucial for me to actually remain in the margin somewhere. But it was, I have to say, it was quite tough to even categorize the events, because there's a fade out and a fade in every segment.